Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked out the small window of the transport ship. The spinning metal ring of Harmony Station grew larger with each passing minute. He had never seen anything like it before. The station was huge, with bright lights running along its curved edges. Ships from different worlds were docked all around it, like metal insects gathered around a glowing flower. "First time seeing a galactic station?" asked the pilot, a woman with short brown hair named Captain Ruth Hayes. She had been flying between Earth and the outer colonies for 10 years, but even she seemed impressed by the sight. "Yeah," Jake said, still staring out the window. "Hard to believe I'm really here." Jake was just a chef from Denver. He owned a small restaurant called Jake's Kitchen, where he served comfort food to working people. Nothing fancy, just good food that made people feel at home. When the letter came asking him to represent Earth's cooking at the first Galactic Culinary Exchange program, he thought it was a joke. Who would want to learn about human food from a guy who made burgers and chili? But the letter was real. The Galactic Council wanted to bring different species together through food. They believed that sharing meals was the best way to understand each other. Each world would send their best cook to show off their culture's favorite dishes. Jake brought what he knew best. In his cooler, he had ingredients for chocolate chip cookies, pepperoni pizza, buffalo wings, and his famous 5-alarm chili. He also packed some basic spices and sauces that he used every day. Nothing too fancy, just the kind of food that Americans love to eat. The transport ship docked with a soft bump. Jake gathered his things and followed Captain Hayes through the airlock. The moment he stepped onto the station, he knew he was somewhere very different from home. The air smelled clean but strange, like metal and something he could not name. The walls were white and curved, with lights that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. But what really got his attention were the other beings walking around. Jake had seen pictures of aliens before, but seeing them in person was different. A group of tall, thin creatures with blue skin and 4 arms walked past him. Their movements were smooth and graceful, like dancers. Near an information desk, he saw beings that looked like they were made of living crystal, their bodies catching and reflecting the station's lights. "Jake Morrison?" a voice called out. Jake turned to see a woman walking toward him. She was human, thank goodness, with red hair and a friendly smile. She wore a blue uniform with patches that showed she worked for the Earth Diplomatic Service. "I'm Ambassador Lisa Carter," she said, holding out her hand. "Welcome to Harmony Station. I hope your trip wasn't too rough." "Not too bad," Jake said, shaking her hand. "Though I'm still not sure why you picked me for this job," Lisa laughed. "Because you make real food that real people love. That's exactly what we need here. Come on, let me show you to the kitchen area and introduce you to the program coordinator." They walked through the station's main corridor. Jake saw more aliens than he could count. Some were small and covered in fur. Others were tall with long necks, and a few seemed to float rather than walk. Many of them looked at him with curiosity, but not in a mean way. More like they were trying to figure out what he was. "The program has representatives from 12 different worlds," Lisa explained. As they walked, each species eats very different things. The Valaxians, for example, consume minerals that they grow into crystal shapes. The Zentari only eat plants that have been processed into smooth pastes. The Glimmerfins live in water and eat different types of algae. Jake felt his stomach turn a little. That doesn't sound very appetizing. "Well, they probably think the same about our food," Lisa said with a smile. "That's the whole point of this program. We all eat different things, but maybe we can learn to understand each other better by sharing our meals." They arrived at a large area that had been set up as a cooking and dining space. There were different stations for each species, with equipment that Jake had never seen before. Some looked like they were made for cooking, others looked more like chemistry sets. Jake Morrison, I would like you to meet Zixthara, Lisa said, stopping in front of one of the tall blue beings with 4 arms. She is the program coordinator. Zixthara turned to face them. Her face was similar to a human's, but longer, with large eyes that seemed to change color in the light. When she spoke, her voice was musical, like wind chimes. Welcome, Jake Morrison of Earth, she said. We are most curious to learn about your species' sustenance methods. We have heard that humans consume a wide variety of organic matter. Yeah, I guess we do, Jake said, not sure how to respond to such a formal way of talking about food. I brought some of our most popular dishes to share. Excellent, Zixthara said. We begin our first tasting session in 1 hour. Each representative will present one dish for the others to experience. Please prepare something that represents your world's cuisine. Jake nodded and made his way to the human cooking station. It looked mostly normal, with a stove, oven, and counter space. He decided to start simple with chocolate chip cookies. Everyone loved cookies, right? As he worked, he watched the other representatives prepare their dishes. The Valaxian grew crystal formations in a special chamber. The Zentari mixed different colored pastes together until they formed a smooth, gray substance. The Glimmerfin worked with what looked like green soup in a tank of water. Jake mixed his cookie dough the way his grandmother had taught him. Butter, sugar, flour, eggs, vanilla, and chocolate chips. Simple ingredients that came together to make something wonderful. The smell of the cookies baking filled the air around his station. When it was time for the tasting, each representative presented their dish. The other species' foods were unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The Valaxian crystals were beautiful, but looked like they would break his teeth. The Zentari paste looked like baby food. The Glimmerfin algae soup was bright green and bubbled on its own. Jake tried small amounts of each dish. Some tasted like nothing. Others were bitter or salty in ways that made him want to spit them out. But he smiled and nodded politely, the way his mother had taught him to do when someone served him food he didn't like. When it was his turn, Jake placed a plate of warm chocolate chip cookies on the central table. These are chocolate chip cookies, he said. They're a favorite treat on Earth. We usually eat them with milk or coffee. The other representatives approached the cookies carefully. The Valaxian picked one up with 2 of her hands and examined it closely. The Zentari sniffed it and made a face. The Glimmerfin poked it with a long, thin finger. What are the dark pieces? Asked the Zentari. Chocolate, Jake said. It comes from a plant called cacao. We process it and add sugar to make it sweet. Several of the aliens stepped back from the table. Jake noticed that the Valaxian skin had changed from blue to a pale green color. The Zentari's eyes were watering. Is something wrong? Jake asked. Zixthara cleared her throat. Perhaps we should move slowly with the tasting process. Different species have different tolerances for various compounds. Jake looked around at the other representatives. They were all staring at his cookies like they were dangerous. He picked one up and took a bite to show them it was safe. The chocolate was still warm and melted on his tongue. It was perfect. But as he chewed, he noticed that several aliens had moved even further away from him. The Glimmerfin had actually left the area entirely. Jake swallowed his bite of cookie and looked at Lisa, who was watching the scene with a worried expression. Maybe we should try something else tomorrow, Jake said quietly. Good idea, Lisa said. Let's call it a day. As they cleaned up, Jake couldn't help but wonder what he had done wrong. They were just cookies. How could something so simple and harmless cause such a reaction? He had no idea that his innocent baking had just introduced the galaxy to what they would soon consider chemical warfare in edible form. Jake woke up the next morning in his small room on Harmony Station. He had spent most of the night thinking about what went wrong with the cookies. Maybe the aliens just needed time to get used to human food. Today he would try something different. something that would show them how good Earth cooking could be. He got dressed and made his way to the kitchen area. The station was quieter in the morning, with fewer beings walking around. When he arrived at his cooking station, he found Lisa Carter waiting for him with a cup of coffee. "Morning, Jake," she said. "How are you feeling about yesterday?" "Better," Jake said, taking the coffee gratefully. "I think I was trying too hard to impress them. Today I'm going to make something more basic, something that shows what human comfort food is really about." "What did you have in mind?" Jake smiled and opened his cooler. "My 5-alarm chili. It's been in my family for 3 generations. My grandmother taught it to my mother taught it to me. It's the kind of food that brings people together." Lisa looked a little worried. "Are you sure that's a good idea? After yesterday's reaction to the cookies?" "Trust me," Jake said. "This is different. Chili is hearty, filling, real food. Not just a sweet treat. Once they taste it, they'll understand what human cooking is all about." Jake began pulling ingredients from his cooler. Ground beef, kidney beans, diced tomatoes, onions, garlic, and his special blend of peppers. He had jalapagos for a little heat, habaneros for more kick, and 1 ghost pepper that he would use very carefully. Just a tiny piece would give the chili the perfect amount of fire. Other representatives started arriving as Jake began cooking. He waved to them cheerfully and started browning the ground beef in a large pot. The smell of cooking meat filled the air around his station. "What are you preparing today?" asked Zixthara, approaching with careful steps. "Chili," Jake said proudly. "It's a stew made with meat, beans, vegetables, and spices. Very popular on Earth. We eat it when we want something warm and filling." Zixthara's large eyes watched as Jake added the onions to the pot. They started to sizzle and turn clear. "Those are the same white bulbs from yesterday?" "Onions, yeah. They're in almost everything we cook. They add flavor and make everything taste better." As the onions cooked, Jake began chopping the garlic. The sharp smell filled the air immediately. He noticed that the Zentari representative, who had been setting up nearby, suddenly moved his station much further away. "Don't mind the smell," Jake called out. "Garlic is strong, but it makes everything delicious." He added the garlic to the pot and the smell got even stronger. Jake breathed it in deeply. It smelled like home, like his grandmother's kitchen on Sunday afternoons. But when he looked around, he saw that several aliens had moved away from the cooking area entirely. Jake shrugged and kept cooking. He added the tomatoes, beans, and spices. Then came the peppers. He started with the jalapagos, chopping them up and adding them to the pot. The capsaicin from the peppers mixed with the steam from the cooking chili, creating a cloud of spicy air around his station. "Now for a little more heat," Jake said to himself, cutting up the habaneros. These were much hotter than jalapagos, but Jake had been eating spicy food his whole life. He could handle heat that would make most people cry. As he added the habaneros to the pot, he noticed that lights started flashing on the wall near his station. At first he thought it might be a timer or some kind of cooking indicator. But the flashing got faster and brighter. Then came the sound. A loud wailing alarm filled the entire kitchen area. Jake looked up from his chili, confused. The alarm was followed by a voice speaking in a language he didn't understand, then the same voice in English. "Chemical hazard detected in Sector 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." This is not a drill. Jake looked around. The few aliens who had still been in the kitchen area were running toward the exits. Zixthara was speaking rapidly into a communication device in her musical language, but her voice sounded panicked. "What's going on?" Jake called out over the alarm. Lisa Carter came running into the kitchen area, but she stopped at the entrance and covered her nose and mouth with her hand. "Jake, you need to stop cooking and come with me right now," she said, her voice muffled. "But I'm not done with the chili yet," Jake said. "I haven't even added the ghost pepper." "The ghost pepper?" Lisa's eyes went wide. "Jake, put down the knife and step away from the stove." "I don't understand what's happening," Jake said, but he turned off the heat under his pot. "It's just chilly." More alarms started going off throughout the station. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Jake could hear running footsteps and shouting in the corridors outside the kitchen. Then the doors burst open and people in full protective suits rushed in. They carried equipment that Jake didn't recognize and wore helmets with clear face shields. They looked like they were ready to handle dangerous chemicals or radioactive materials. "Where is the source of contamination?" one of them asked through. A speaker in his helmet. Lisa pointed at Jake's cooking station. "Over there." The suited figures approached Jake's chili pot carefully, holding devices that beeped and clicked. The beeping got faster as they got closer to the pot. "Confirmed chemical weapons deployment," one of them announced. "Multiple toxic compounds detected. Capsaicin levels are off the charts. Sulfur compounds present. Organic toxins throughout the area." "Chemical weapons?" Jake said. "It's chili. It's food." "Sir, please step away from the cooking area immediately," the suited figure said. "You are in extreme danger." "I'm fine," Jake said. "I've been breathing this air for the last hour. I cook with these ingredients every day." The suited figures looked at each other. Even through their helmets, Jake could see their confusion. Dr. Kevin Price, the human scientist who had come to the station to study alien biology, arrived with the emergency team. Unlike the others, he wasn't wearing a protective suit. "Kevin." "Thank goodness," Lisa said. "Can you explain what's happening?" Dr. Price looked at Jake's cooking station, then at the readings on the emergency team's equipment. His face grew pale. "Jake, what exactly did you put in that chili?" "Just the normal stuff," Jake said. "Beef, beans, tomatoes, onions, garlic, jalapenos, habaneros." "I was about to add a piece of ghost pepper when all the alarms started." Dr. Price ran his hand through his hair. "The capsaicin from the peppers, the sulfur compounds from the garlic and onions, the organic acids from the tomatoes. Jake, to most alien species, what you're cooking isn't food. It's a chemical weapon." "That's impossible," Jake said. "People eat this stuff every day on Earth. Kids eat it. My grandmother made this recipe." "That's exactly the problem," Dr. Price sighed. "Humans can eat things that would kill most other species. We evolved on a death world, Jake. Our immune systems, our digestive systems, everything about us is designed to handle toxins that would be fatal to aliens." The emergency team was setting up containment barriers around Jake's cooking station. They treated his pot of chili like it was a bomb that might go off at any moment. "I need to call the captain," one of the suited figures said. "We have a code 7 situation. Possible biological warfare agent loose on the station." "Biological warfare?" Jake said. "It's chili." But even as he said it, Jake started to understand. The way the aliens had reacted to his cookies yesterday. The way they had moved away when he started cooking with garlic. The way they looked at his food like it was dangerous. "Sir, we need to evacuate this entire section of the station," the emergency team leader said. "The contamination levels are beyond our safety protocols. What about my chili?" Jake asked weakly. "Sir, that pot contains enough toxins to hospitalize half the alien population on this station. We'll need to treat it as hazardous waste." Jake looked at his grandmother's chili recipe, now surrounded by emergency barriers and hazmat equipment. He had come here to share human culture through food. Instead, he had accidentally created what the aliens considered a weapon of mass destruction. The evacuation alarm continued to wail as the entire kitchen area was cleared. Jake found himself standing in the corridor, watching through a window as emergency teams in protective suits carefully disposed of his chili. "So what happens now?" he asked Lisa. "Now," she said, We try to explain to 12 different alien species why humans regularly consume what they consider chemical weapons. And we hope they don't decide we're too dangerous to be part of the galactic community. Jake looked back at the sealed kitchen area. His simple family recipe had just become a diplomatic incident that could affect Earth's relationship with the entire galaxy. All because he wanted to make a nice pot of chili. 3 hours after the chili incident, Jake sat in a conference room with Dr. Kevin Price and Amy Foster, the human linguist who had been studying alien languages. The room was on the human side of the station, far away from the kitchen area that was still sealed off by the emergency teams. "I still don't understand how this happened," Jake said for the 10th time. "It's just food. Normal food that people eat every day." Dr. Price spread out several data tablets on the table. Each one showed charts and numbers that meant nothing to Jake but made the scientist look more worried with each page. "Jake, I've been studying the biological reports from the emergency teams," Dr. Price said. "What you cooked yesterday wasn't just spicy food. To alien biology, it was a collection of deadly toxins." Amy Foster looked up from her own tablet. "I've been talking to the alien representatives, trying to understand their reactions. Jake, they're terrified. Some of them think we brought you here to test biological weapons on them." "That's crazy," Jake said. "I'm just a cook from Denver. I run a little restaurant where truck drivers and construction workers eat lunch." "That's exactly what makes this so scary to them," Dr. Price said. "You're not a scientist or a weapons expert. You're a regular person who handles these toxins every day like they're nothing." Dr. Price picked up one of the tablets and showed Jake a chart. "Look at this. The capsaicin from your peppers. For humans, it causes a burning sensation that we actually enjoy. For Valaxians, it would cause their nervous system to shut down. They would die in minutes." Jake stared at the chart. "But it's just pepper. People put hot sauce on everything." "The garlic you used," Amy Foster added, "releases sulfur compounds when you cook it. Those compounds would cause permanent lung damage to the Centauri. They literally can't breathe the same air as cooking garlic. And the onions," Dr. Price continued, "contain chemicals that would cause blindness in several alien species. What we consider a basic cooking ingredient is like tear gas to them." Jake put his head in his hands. "So every meal I've ever cooked would be considered a war crime by alien standards." "It gets worse," Dr. Price said quietly. "I ran tests on the other ingredients you brought. The chocolate in your cookies contains theobromine. It's mildly toxic to humans in very large amounts, but it would kill most alien species in the amounts you used." Amy Foster pulled up another screen. "The beef you used in the chili. Most alien species can't process animal proteins the way humans can. To them, eating meat is like eating poison. Even the tomatoes," Dr. Price said. "They're acidic enough to dissolve the protective scales that the glimmerfins have. What we consider a mild acid would burn through their skin." Jake looked around the room. Through the window, he could see alien ships undocking from the station. Some were leaving in a hurry. "Are they all leaving because of me?" he asked. Amy Foster nodded. 3 species have already called for emergency evacuation of their representatives. The Valaxian ambassador sent a message to their home world describing what happened as a toxic atmosphere deployment. The Centauri are demanding that all human food be classified as biological weapons. A communication screen on the wall lit up, showing Captain Roy Banks of the human escort ship. He looked tired and stressed. "Dr. Price, I need an update on the situation," Captain Banks said. "I'm getting calls from Earth, from the Galactic Council, and from about 6 different alien governments. They all want to know what happened and whether humans are safe to be around." "It's complicated, Captain," Dr. Price said. "We're dealing with a fundamental difference in biology. What humans eat for pleasure is literally toxic to most alien life. How toxic are we talking about? Captain Banks asked. Dr. Price looked at his data. Captain, a human eating a normal meal produces enough toxins in their breath to be considered a chemical weapon by galactic standards. The compounds we excrete through our skin would be classified as biological warfare agents. Captain Banks was quiet for a long moment. Are you telling me that just by existing, humans are walking chemical weapons? In a way, yes, Dr. Price said. We evolved on a world so dangerous that our bodies developed to handle toxins that would kill most galactic life. We don't just survive these toxins, we seek them out and enjoy them. Jake spoke up. Captain, I never meant for any of this to happen. I just wanted to share good food with new friends. I know, Jake, Captain Banks said. But the damage is done. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. Some members are talking about quarantining Earth until they can figure out how to handle us safely. Amy Foster had been monitoring alien communications during the conversation. Captain, it's getting worse. The military analysts from several species have been studying our food preparation methods. They're calling it casual weapons deployment. They can't understand how we handle these toxins without protective equipment. What kind of protective equipment? Jake asked. The kind that hazmat teams use, Amy Foster said. They think we should need full body suits and breathing apparatus just to cook a meal. Double quotes. Dr. Price pulled up another screen. I've been analyzing human dietary habits across Earth's cultures. Jake, every human culture on Earth eats things that would be considered weapons by alien standards. Indian curry, Mexican salsa, Korean kimchi, Italian garlic bread. All of it is toxic to aliens. So it's not just me, Jake said with some relief. Double quotes. No, Jake, it's all of us, Dr. Price said. Humans as a species have developed a diet that is incompatible with most galactic life. We're not just different, we're dangerous. The communication screen flickered and Zixthara appeared. The Valaxian coordinator looked pale, and her normally musical voice was strained. Dr. Price, we need to discuss the situation, she said. The Galactic Council has received reports that are very concerning. What kind of reports? Dr. Price asked. Military analysis of human food preparation methods, Zixthara said. They are calling it advanced biological warfare techniques, the casual way that Jake Morrison handled multiple toxins simultaneously has been classified as expert level. Weapons training. Jake laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Weapons training? I learned to cook from my grandmother. She was a sweet old lady who made cookies for church bake sales. That makes it worse, Zixthara said. If your elders teach your young to handle these toxins from childhood, it suggests that your entire species is trained in biological warfare from birth. Amy Foster looked up from her communication equipment. I'm getting reports from alien news networks. They're calling humans the poison eaters. Some are saying we're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But we're not dangerous, Jake said. We're just people. We like good food and we want to get along with everyone. Jake, Dr. Price said gently. To them, the fact that we can eat these toxins and still be friendly is what makes us so terrifying. We're not just immune to poisons, we enjoy them. We seek out stronger and stronger toxins for pleasure. Captain Banks appeared on the screen again. I'm getting word that several alien species are requesting immediate military consultations about the human toxin threat. They want to know if our food is just the beginning. If we can eat poisons, what else can we do? This is getting out of hand, Jake said. All I did was make chili. That's exactly the point, Dr. Price said. You made chili like it was the most natural thing in the world. You handled toxins that could kill most aliens, and you did it while humming and smiling. To them, that's not normal behavior. That's the behavior of a species so dangerous that they don't even realize how dangerous they are. Amy Foster was reading. New messages on her tablet. The Galactic Council is scheduling an emergency session. They want to determine whether humans should be allowed to continue participating in galactic society, or if Earth should be quarantined for the safety of all other species. Jake looked around the room at the humans who were trying to help him understand the situation. So what happens now? Now, Dr. Price said, we try to convince the galaxy that humans aren't a threat, despite the fact that our normal diet could be used as biological weapons. We need to show them that we can be trusted, even though we're probably the most dangerous species they've ever encountered. And if we can't convince them? Jake asked. Captain Banks answered from the screen. Then Earth gets cut off from the galactic community. We become the scary death world that everyone avoids, the planet full of beings who eat poison for fun. Jake thought about his restaurant back home, about the people who came in every day for a bowl of his chili. Normal people living normal lives, never knowing that their lunch could be considered a weapon of mass destruction by alien standards. I just wanted to make good food, he said quietly. And that, Dr. Price said, is exactly what scares them the most. The next morning, Jake was escorted to a specially built testing facility on Harmony Station. The Galactic Council had demanded a formal demonstration to understand exactly how dangerous human food could be. They wanted to see what Jake could do when he really tried to cook something strong. The testing room looked like a laboratory mixed with a kitchen. Jake's cooking station was in the center, surrounded by thick glass walls. Outside the glass, alien scientists sat behind control panels covered with blinking lights and screens. They all wore protective suits, even though they were far away from where Jake would be cooking. Dr. Price and Amy Foster stood in the observation area with the aliens. Lieutenant Ben Rogers, a military officer from the human escort ship, had also come to watch. He looked uncomfortable in his dress uniform. This is ridiculous, Jake said into the microphone that connected him to the observation room. You're all acting like I'm about to build a bomb. From our perspective you are, said Dr. Veltar, the head alien scientist. He was a Centauri with gray skin and large black eyes. We need to understand the extent of human food weaponization. Weaponization? Jake shook his head. I'm just going to cook some normal food. That is exactly what concerns us, Dr. Veltar said. Please begin with what you consider mild human foods. Jake started with something he thought was completely harmless. He made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich using white bread, smooth peanut butter, and grape jelly. As he opened the jar of peanut butter, alarms immediately started beeping in the observation room. Extreme allergen detected, announced the computer voice. Protein compound levels beyond safe parameters. It's just peanut butter, Jake called. Out. Kids eat this for lunch every day. Dr. Veltar was reading numbers on his screen. Jake Morrison. The protein compounds in that substance would cause immediate respiratory failure in 4 different species. The oil content would poison a glimmerfin in minutes. Jake spread the peanut butter on the bread anyway. The sweet smell filled his cooking area, but through the glass he could see several aliens backing away from their observation posts. Now I'll make some tomato soup, Jake said, opening a can of tomato soup and pouring it into a pot. The red liquid looked innocent enough, but the monitoring equipment went crazy. Acid levels are off the charts, Dr. Veltar said, his voice getting higher with worry. That liquid would dissolve glimmerfin scales on contact. It would burn through the Laxian skin tissue. But it's just tomato soup, Jake said, stirring the red liquid as it heated up. My mother used to make this when I was sick. It's comfort food. Lieutenant Rogers spoke up from the observation area. Dr. Veltar, what are the strategic implications of what we're seeing? Strategic implications? Dr. Veltar looked at the military officer with confusion. If humans can casually handle these substances, what does that tell you about human biology in combat situations? Dr. Veltar was quiet for a moment, then started typing rapidly on his computer. Computer, run. Analysis on human toxin resistance compared to known galactic species. While the computer worked, Jake continued cooking. He made herb-crusted chicken using rosemary, thyme, and oregano that he had brought from Earth. The herbs smelled wonderful to him, but the alien monitoring systems detected them as neurotoxins. The herb compounds would cause nervous system failure in Zentari, Dr. Veltar announced. Coma induction in 3 species. Respiratory paralysis in 2 others. They're just herbs, Jake said, but he was starting to understand how serious this was. People grow these in their gardens. You grow neurotoxins in your gardens for casual consumption, Dr. Veltar said, making notes. This suggests extensive biological warfare preparation across your entire planet. Amy Foster looked worried as she translated for some of the other alien observers. Jake, they're not seeing this as cooking anymore. They're analyzing it as weapons. Testing. What should I do? Jake asked. Keep going, Lieutenant Rogers said. If they want to see what human food can do, let's show them. Jake decided to move on to what he considered medium-level spice. He started making curry using turmeric, cumin, coriander, and garam masala. The spices filled the air with a rich, warm smell that reminded Jake of the Indian restaurant down the street from his place in Denver. The alien monitoring system started making sounds Jake had never heard before. Loud beeping mixed with what sounded like sirens. Evacuate Observation Deck 2, Dr. Veltar announced. Airborne toxin levels beyond containment capacity. Several aliens ran from the observation area, even though they were wearing protective suits and breathing filtered air. The curry didn't even have any peppers in it yet. I haven't even added the spicy parts, Jake called out. The spicy parts? Dr. Veltar's voice cracked. What you have already prepared would be classified as a chemical weapon by our military standards. Jake added ghost peppers to the curry. Just a small amount, the way he always did. But the moment the peppers hit the hot oil, every alarm in the facility went off at once. Complete facility evacuation, the computer announced. Biological warfare. Agent detected. This is not a drill. Through the glass, Jake could see aliens running in all directions. Dr. Veltar was the only one left at his station, and he was wearing what looked like a full spacesuit. Jake Morrison, Dr. Veltar's voice, came through the intercom. What you have just created would be classified as a weapon of mass destruction. The airborne particles alone could disable an entire city of my people. It's just curry, Jake said weakly. People eat this at restaurants. Lieutenant Rogers was still in the observation area, but he was the only one left besides Dr. Veltar. Doctor, I need to understand something. If this is what humans eat for pleasure, what does that tell you about human capabilities in hostile environments? Dr. Veltar looked at his readings. Lieutenant, based on what I'm seeing, humans have evolved to not only survive in environments that would kill most galactic species, but to thrive in them. You seek out and consume toxins that we use as weapons. But we're not trying to be weapons, Jake said. We just like food that tastes good. That makes you more dangerous, not less, Dr. Veltar said. A species that casually consumes military-grade toxins and doesn't even realize it suggests a level of biological evolution that we have never encountered. Jake decided to try one more dish. He made wasabi-crusted salmon using real wasabi that he had brought from a specialty shop in Denver. As soon as he opened the container of wasabi, the few remaining observers fled the area. Total facility lockdown, the computer announced. Unknown biological agent detected. Military response requested. It's wasabi, Jake called out to the empty observation room. People eat it with sushi. Only Dr. Veltar remained, speaking to Jake through the intercom from what looked like a sealed control room. Jake Morrison, the compound you just released would be used by our military to clear enemy bunkers. The fact that your species eats it with raw fish suggests a level of biological warfare adaptation that is beyond our understanding. Jake looked around the testing facility. He was alone in his cooking area, surrounded by empty observation rooms and blaring alarms. The smell of his cooking filled the air around him, curry, wasabi, herbs and spices that reminded him of home. Dr. Veltar. Am I really that dangerous? Jake Morrison, the alien scientist, said. You have just demonstrated that you can casually deploy chemical weapons while cooking a simple meal. You handle substances that would kill most galactic life, and you do it while humming and smiling. Yes, you are that dangerous. But I don't want to hurt anyone, Jake said. That is what makes you most terrifying of all, Dr. Veltar replied. You are a walking biological weapon who doesn't even know it. Your entire species consumes military-grade toxins for entertainment. You are the most dangerous beings we have ever encountered, and you think you're just making dinner. Jake sat down on a stool in his cooking area and looked at the curry he had made. It smelled delicious to him, but to the aliens it was a weapon of mass destruction. He was just a cook from Denver who wanted to share good food with new friends. But he had accidentally shown the galaxy that humans were the most dangerous species in known space. What happens now? Jake asked. Now, Dr. Veltar said, we try to figure out how the galaxy can coexist with a species that eats poison for fun. 6 months after the incident at Harmony Station, Jake Morrison stood in front of a large restaurant on the outer ring of the station. The sign above the door read, "The Chemical Kitchen," in both human English and several alien languages. Below that, in smaller letters, it said, "Experience human cuisine safely." The restaurant was nothing like Jake had ever imagined running. The dining area was divided into sealed chambers where aliens could eat human food while wearing protective equipment. Each chamber had its own air filtration system and emergency medical station. The kitchen was behind triple-sealed glass walls with robot arms that Jake controlled to cook the food. Hard to believe this all started with chocolate chip cookies, said Amy Foster, who had become Jake's business partner and translator. She was checking the reservation list for the evening. We're booked solid for the next 3 months. Jake watched through the kitchen window as a group of Valaxian diplomats entered the restaurant. They wore what looked like spacesuits with clear helmets, but their eyes were bright with excitement. In the past few months, eating human food had become the most dangerous and thrilling experience available in galactic space. Table 7 wants to try the mild salsa again, Amy said. And the Zentari ambassador specifically requested your 5-alarm chili, but he wants the extra protective suit. Jake shook his head and smiled. His grandmother's chili recipe had become legendary throughout the galaxy. Military strategists studied it to understand human capabilities. Wealthy aliens paid enormous amounts of money just to smell it from a safe distance. Dr. Kevin Price entered through the staff door, carrying a tablet full of new reports. Jake, you're not going to believe the latest news from Earth. What now? Jake asked, though he was smiling. Every week brought new stories about how the galaxy was reacting to human food. The Galactic Council just classified black pepper as a restricted substance, Dr. Price said. Apparently, the piperine in it is being studied as a potential non-lethal weapon for crowd control. Black pepper? Jake laughed. That's on every table in every restaurant on Earth. That's exactly what's got them worried, Dr. Price said. They can't understand how humans casually use military-grade chemical compounds to season their food. Amy Foster looked up from her translation work. I've been monitoring alien news networks. They're calling humans the poison masters now. There are documentaries about how we evolved to eat toxins that would kill everything else in the galaxy. Jake started preparing the evening special, his grandmother's apple pie. He had learned to be very careful with the cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla extract. The combination had caused 3 diplomatic incidents before the restaurant opened. Any Word from Captain Banks? Jake asked. He's still dealing with the trade negotiations, Dr. Price said. Apparently, several alien species want to buy human spices for their military. They can't believe we just give this stuff away at grocery stores. The front door chimed, and Jake looked up to see Zikthara entering the restaurant. The Valaxian coordinator had become a regular customer, though she still wore full protective gear whenever she came to eat. "Good evening, Zikthara," Amy called, out in the musical Valaxian language. "Good evening, Amy Foster," Zikthara replied through her suit speaker. "I have brought some friends who wish to experience the legendary human poison eating ritual." Behind her came 3 other Valaxians, all wearing the latest in protective dining equipment. Their suits were decorated with symbols that Jake had learned meant extreme danger and biological hazard. "What would you like to try tonight?" Jake asked through the intercom. "My friends wish to observe the preparation of chocolate chip cookies," Zikthara said. "They have heard stories but do not believe that humans consume theobromine for pleasure." Jake got out the ingredients for cookies. Even after 6 months, he still found it strange that making cookies required the same safety protocols as handling radioactive materials. But he had gotten used to the routine. As he mixed the cookie dough, he heard gasps from the dining chamber. The Valaxians were watching every move he made like he was performing magic. "He handles the toxins with his bare hands," one of them said in wonder. "And he smiles while doing it," said another. Jake added the chocolate chips and noticed that the alien monitoring systems were beeping steadily. The chocolate chips alone contained enough theobromine to be considered a weapon by galactic standards. Lieutenant Rogers entered the restaurant, still in his military uniform. He had been promoted after his report on the strategic implications of human food tolerance reached Earth Command. "Jake, I have some interesting news from the diplomatic front," Lieutenant Rogers said. "Good news or bad news?" Jake asked, sliding the cookies into the oven. "Depends on how you look at it," Lieutenant Rogers said. "The Galactic Council has officially reclassified humans as a specialized biological warfare species." "That sounds bad," Jake said. "Actually, it's good, Amy," Foster explained. "It means they recognize that we're not trying to hurt anyone. We're just biologically different. It gives us special status in the galactic community." Dr. Price looked up from his tablet. "There are some interesting side effects. 3 alien species have requested human military advisors to help them understand biological warfare defense. They want to learn from the species that eats chemical weapons for breakfast. And there's more," Lieutenant Rogers said. "The Galactic Council is setting up a new research station to study human biology. They want to understand how we evolved to be immune to so many toxins." Jake pulled the cookies out of the oven. The smell of warm chocolate and vanilla filled the cooking area, and he could hear excited chattering from the alien diners. "Jake," Amy said, "you've got a call from Earth. It's from the Food Network." Jake took the communication device. On the screen was a woman with bright red hair and a big smile. "Mr. Morrison, this is Susan Lee from the Food Network. We want to offer you your own cooking show. Cooking with chemical weapons would be the first human cooking show broadcast throughout the galaxy." "I don't cook with chemical weapons," Jake said. "I just cook normal food." "That's exactly the point," Susan Lee said. "To aliens, normal human food is chemical weapons. The show would help other species understand human culture while maintaining safe viewing distances." After the call ended, Jake looked around his restaurant. Aliens in protective suits were carefully tasting his cookies through special feeding tubes in their helmets. They looked terrified and thrilled at the same time. "You know what's funny?" Jake said to Amy and Dr. Price. "I came here to bring people together through food. And I guess I did, just not the way I expected." "You did more than that," Dr. Price said. "You changed how the entire galaxy sees humanity. We're not just another species anymore. We're the people who eat poison for fun and ask for seconds. Amy Foster was monitoring the alien news feeds. Jake, you're mentioned in the Galactic news again. There's an article about how human restaurants are becoming the most popular tourist destinations in known space. Really? Really? Aliens are traveling from across the galaxy just to watch humans eat. They call it extreme biological tourism. Jake laughed as he started preparing another batch of cookies. My grandmother always said her recipes would make me famous someday. I don't think this is what she had in mind. Zixthara approached the kitchen window. Even through her protective suit, Jake could see that she was smiling. Jake Morrison, she said, I have a message from the Galactic Council. They want to commission you to write a cookbook. A cookbook? Yes, Deathworld Delicacies, a guide to human chemical warfare cuisine. It would be used by alien military academies to teach biological warfare defense. Jake looked at the kitchen around him, at the aliens eating his food through protective equipment, at the news reports calling him the most dangerous chef in the galaxy. He thought about his little restaurant back in Denver, where truck drivers and construction workers came for simple good food. You know what? Jake said, starting to mix another batch of cookie dough. If making apple pie and chocolate chip cookies makes me the most dangerous chef in the galaxy, I guess I can live with that. He added the chocolate chips to the dough, and once again, the alien monitoring systems began their familiar chorus of warning beeps, but this time, Jake didn't worry about it. He had learned that sometimes the best way to bring people together was to scare them a little first. And if his grandmother's recipes could make him galactic famous, well, that was just fine with him.